Why is it taking long? Okay. Hi, this is Calla from Calla Explains It All. Today, we're talking about the spy, Garbo. Okay, so the spy, Garbo, was also known as Juan Garcia. He was a Spanish man who was super anti-fascism and communism. And he is one of the only known people that was decorated both by the Germans and the Brits for espionage, and he received the highest honor for military service in both countries. Now, if you don't know, which then you're really dumb, World War II was Germany and Italy and Japan, which is the Eastern Theater, and we're not going to talk about it, versus initially just Britain, but then France kind of, but not really, because then they got taken over, and the US and like kind of Russia, that's not really important. But anyways, just that's the context. It's World War II. So Juan Garcia is Spanish, and he lived through the Spanish Civil War. So he hates fascism, which is what that was about. General Franco. Doesn't really matter unless you're a history nerd. But yes, so that's where he sort of gets his like deep and abiding hatred for fascism. So he wants to serve the Allies, the Brits, because he hates fascism. So he initially goes to the Germans and offers to spy for them. And so they pay his expenses and send him to England, or he's supposed to go to England in order to recruit spies. But instead he goes to Lisbon because that's clearly logical. And instead he impersonates a fanatically pro-Nazi government official, and then slowly begins to create a fake network of operatives that he's recruited, but initially, in total, he creates 27 people that don't exist, and that's his spy network. And so he creates bogus reports with that, and that allows him to have some incorrect information, so he can just blame like, hey, no, like, it wasn't me, it was my spy Bob, and Bob doesn't exist. And they would go so far as like he would make up stories like, oh, this operative got sick, and then like a couple days later in the local newspaper from where he was supposed to be from, they would publish an obituary that he died of whatever sickness it was. So then the Germans end up actually paying his widow a pension for his service to Germany. That there's no widow, there's no person, so Garbo gets money. But that's not why he did it. But he did get rich because of it. Anyways. Okay, so yeah. Creates bogus spy network, but that's not really the like big point. What ends up happening is that the Brits get their counterintelligence finds out that there's this like spy master that's leaking all their secrets, because his bogus reports ended up being so convincing that then the Brits thought that there was like a mole. So they are looking for Garbo, and they find him, and he ends up offering, like, which is what he wanted all along, to be a double spy and to help the Brits, because that's what he likes. And so he ends up being so successful that the Germans actually stop recruiting agents in the UK because they're overwhelmed with the amount of information that he's giving them. And what he would do with the Brits' help is that they would give him some real information, so the Germans weren't suspicious. And then he would just give other sort of like half-true or like not really important information. But anyways, the big sort of drama is with D-Day, which anyone who knows anything about history knows that D-Day was the invasion of the beaches of Normandy that enabled sort of a turning point for the European theater of the war. So he was really instrumental for that. He's telling the Germans that the British troops are going to land at the port of Calais. And so the Germans, like, trusting their like most, important spy master to obviously tell them the truth, they move all their troops, not all of them, but most of them, to the port of Calais to anticipate this like massive British attack. But that's not really how it works out. Obviously, it turns out, of course, that the Brits are not landing there, but they had set up blow-up tanks and like other military equipment it was just like inflatable stuff, but from aerial photography, it looked convincing. So that combined with Garbo made the Germans, they're like, most of them are up here. So then we storm the beaches of Normandy and prevent a lot of American deaths while still successfully capturing that area and moving in. And so that's sort of his big achievement. A lot of people say that D-Day wouldn't have been successful without the Germans believing that the port of Calais is where they were going to land. So the Germans thank him for his efforts because he actually ends up sending the correct troop movements at about 4 a.m. And of course, the Germans don't receive the answer till about 8 a.m. On D-Day, so they kind of dropped the ball on that one, the Germans. And so Garbo ends up saying something like, I'm so disgusted with your operatives' lack of commitment to the German cause, or something like that. Anyways, and so then the war ends. But before that, the Germans end up paying him in total almost $400,000 for different operative pensions, like if they died, or different expenses, as well as like a reward for him being so faithful to the Nazi cause. And they also give him the Iron Cross, which is the highest military honor that anyone can get in Germany. But in addition, he also gets the highest military honor that can be given to service for the British. So he's one of the only known people in the world to get both medals. And of course, he doesn't want to be found out as a double spy, so he runs away to South America, which doesn't actually make a lot of sense because when you think about it, like, there's sort of that stereotype, like, all Nazis that didn't, like, obviously get tried in Nuremberg or whatever, go to South America to hide out. So there was like a higher population of Nazis in South America than there was in Germany. But that's a side note. Yeah, so he goes to Venezuela, and then on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, he's like, hey guys, what's up? Like, and, totally takes a shit on the Germans. Anyways, yep, that's Garbo. He's a G. Oh, obviously that's his code name. His real name is Juan Garcia. I think I said that, but that's his code name. And he's named Garbo after Greta Garbo. Obviously. Anyways, that was Garbo. Yay, history.